your person mind's going to be behind the scenes justifying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then your primate mind's going to take the lead, all while you're saying, I'm not emotional. Like, oh, yeah, you are, brother. Yeah, you are.
In society, you see things happening where, women, it seems like as a whole, women are whatever, they're growing and they're progressing and they're doing all these things. And then men are kind of looking at it and then weirded out. Some men are weirded out for the most part, like, okay, things are changing. What does that mean for me? Now what is my spot? What's my place in the life, of a woman? You had I'll tell men all the time, especially in relationships, men always think about, my job in the relationship is to, financially provide and protect. I'm providing and I'm protecting. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cool, but realize that a lot of that is very much outdated, because that came from a time when predominantly men worked and women were at home. So the roles were very established, and that's how you fit. Well, that was a 60-year-old guy that told you that. And when he told you that, the world had shifted. So now completely, women don't need you per se like before to provide. They're looking for some more emotion from you, and you like, I ain't got nothing. I don't know. Nobody taught me that. Blah 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 blah. So reading your article, I was like, man, you talked about the way women they're relational in terms of their lives for the most part. The way they relate to others is important. And then it seems like, you're getting towards men are much more self-oriented, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have to be careful about framing that a little bit, but that's the gist of it. And, I can put more specificity on it. One way of thinking about it is that, men tend to be a little bit more instrumental in their goal orientation, sort of and then they background the relational dynamics a bit so that the task is in front of them with a relational background. Women tend to be more relationally foregrounded. And then the task, certainly, obviously, you have to solve problems, and just like men have to do relation. So you can think about men as being, instrumental, and women relational in sort of their cognitive architecture. And that has all sorts of implications for emotion, because the way emotion connects to the relational dynamics, and also our expectation of narrating and being in touch with our feelings are quite different across the gender.
Okay. So that's what you're not saying, that men are more selfish.
Well, it's careful, okay? Because it's like, certainly men can be, if there's a gender that's going to be a little bit more self-focused, definitely men would be that. And then that will translate into some men becoming selfish. Absolutely.
Okay.
But I'd be hesitant to say that men are the more selfish sex overall. That feels more, you're getting, I want to really I want to understand what the dialectical tension, by dialectic, yin yang kind of tension between masculinity and maleness and femininity and femaleness, and what those are and where they pull. And it is absolutely that the masculine side of that equation pulls you towards what's agency and self-focus, whereas the feminine energy pulls you towards communion and connection and other focus. And you can see that in terms of, you want to think about our evolutionary history, the first core relation, way before we were even mammals, is mother offspring. So the feminine is birthing and then attending to the other and then feeding back in the other in a way that is far deeper historically than virtually any other relation. And that's going to be embedded in our architecture. And so that's the orientation towards the relational other, and the feedback is definitely different between the sexes.
Got you. Okay. So briefly, talk about your background and what you do and things like that, to give some context. You're a psychologist.
I'm a psychologist.
A
Yes.
psychologist. Who and the what is your I guess focus, your field of your expertise, things like
Sure. Sure. So I'm trained as a clinical psychologist. Some of your listeners may know Jordan Peterson. I've got basically that exact same kind of background.
that? Okay.
I have expertise in depression, anxiety, personality disorders, suicide, relationships. I was director of the combined integrated doctoral training program, and then just retired from that voluntarily so I could do more work. I'm a professor, full professor at James Madison University, where I teach individuals to become psychological doctors.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, when you talk about, let's go to emotions. One of your articles is about why men have a difficulty, dealing with or expressing their feelings.
Absolutely.
So, briefly talk about that, a little bit. I know there's a lot involved, but if you could try to put it in a nutshell,
of course.
what is the difficulty that men have with expressing their feelings?
Absolutely. So let's just talk a little bit about our consciousness and how it works, just to sort of go there. So let's layer our consciousness into 3 different levels, okay?
Okay.
So the top of our consciousness is what you and I are doing right here, and that's in our self-conscious narration. Okay. So we're out here talking, okay? And that's sort of the center of our adult consciousness when we're talking to ourselves, talking to other people. Okay. And that's what I call the person part of your consciousness. Okay. Then underneath that, all right, is your feeling part. Okay. So, and that's got your perception. So you open your eyes and you see a coffee cup.
Right.
Okay. And you integrate your hearing into this screen of experience that you have. That's the perceptual side of that feeling part. Okay. And then there's the emotional side of the feeling part. Okay. Which is basically plugged into your pleasure, pain, and positive and negative emotion system. Okay. So when you see something come into the screen, before you even narrate it at all, you're going to have the emotion feeling is going to say good, bad. Okay. And that's going to actually every perception you have gets tagged at a very little level. If it's a neutral, like if I show you a circle, but even a circle, actually, you'll get a tag of I like that or I don't like that. Okay. Every perception gets tagged at least some what's called a valence of either positivity or negativity.
And that comes from what? Something in our past that makes us label this good or bad, or
and label it's really just a jolt. It's the jolt of if you think about what pain is, what's pain? It's a jolt of that's bad. Okay. Right. And pleasure, ooh, that's good. And that's before our talking person consciousness. This is in our feeling perceptual consciousness. Okay. What I call the primate part of our consciousness. There's a person up here, and then we're primates. Okay. From a scientific perspective, we're primates. Right. And then that then puts us, then the final is the non-conscious brain into the body. Okay. So that's our organism side. We're living organisms that are also primates that have feeling. Okay. And we happen to be unique primates that are also persons engaged that we talk.
Okay. And then, so that reminds me of, the first article that I read. You were talking about our experiences or whatever. They link to something that we feel is going to help us accomplish our goals, or something that's going to not or serve to not get our goals, right? So if it's going to help us, then that's essentially a good thing. And if we feel like that thing is going to prevent us, then that's a bad thing. So we go in those directions. Is that
brilliant? That's really correct? Good. Yeah. So you want to think about the body and primate system being pretty fast and evaluating stuff as good or bad pretty quickly. Okay. And then it will start to simulate stuff. So you start getting imaginations and wondering.
Okay.
Okay. So that's sort of from the level 1 into level 2, from the body into the primate. Okay. And then it starts wondering. And then that narrator is both slower, okay, and more extended in time. So it's sort of like, how is this going to work in the short term? How's it going to work in the long term? Do I want to go to, as I tell my doc students, do I want to go to graduate school? That's a person question that you, that's a 4-year thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Did this advertisement piss me off, or this political statement just immediately jerk? You know, if I'm a Democrat, I see Trump done something, I'll just have a boom. Hey, you just say the word Trump and you're like, ah, okay. Yeah. So that's that primate section operating really fast. There's a wonderful book called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Okay. And that fast is that primate. It just makes a picture of what it is. It says, do you want to move toward it? You want to move away from it? Is it pleasurable? Is it painful? Okay. And that's really always. So I want to tell the men out there, your entire system is a feeling system, both in terms of its input, meaning a sensory perceptual feeling, and in terms of its output, meaning it's just constantly alive with pleasure and pain, and this is good and this is bad. Yeah. Okay. And that's the energy systems. All right. That, in fact, the word emotion is really energized motion. Okay? It's energized motion.
Okay. So if we respond to things really quickly, to me, it on a basic level, it just seems like, especially when you talk about we've moved into the future mentally a little bit, it's as if we're assuming things really, really quickly. You know, somebody asks you a question and you immediately go, well, why you ask me that? And you've already jumped into the future, that they're asking you because of some negative reason, or they're saying this because they're trying to, devalue your feelings, and you've done all these things. So it's like, whoa, slow down and just first answer the question to see if your prediction is true.
Brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant. So let me break that down. Okay. So our person side wants to be justified. Okay. Wants to be justified. And that means like, we're doing the right thing. We're cool. We're got a place in the status matrix. And we're consistent. We're okay. Now somebody comes, hey, why did you do that? Yeah. Okay. Somebody uses the why word in particular. All right. That immediately pulls the question. You know, my wife comes in and, well, why are you doing that? I'm immediately, the frame is, hey, she's going to basically force me to give an account of my action. Right. Okay. And then your emotion system immediately says, oh, well, now you're one down. If you're being forced to give an account, okay, now you're one down. She's got the power to elicit your account. Now you have to make sure that account is okay. So now you're in a defensive position. And that's why you say, hey, you don't have a right to ask me that, or what you talking about? It's like, and the reason you say that real fast is because your intuitive emotional system said, hey, this is one down. I don't like it. I'm not going to allow myself. Or if your wife does have power, you say, hey, okay, sorry, honey, I'm just trying to do this. You get what's called fawning reaction. A fawning reaction is when you get apologetic and deferential, and you try to meet the needs of the other. So you can get, in fact, we have 4 basic defensive embodiments. Okay. Yeah. One is freeze. I don't know. Okay. One is flight. I'm going to get out of here. Okay. One is fight. Screw you. I'm doing it just fine. And one is fawning. I'm sorry. Let me help. Okay. Those are 4 automatic defenses that we have when we get threatened, and your primate body will drop into one of those if you're anxious. Okay. And then your person's mind will just try to justify what it is that you're doing if you're not fully aware. Okay. Wow. So now all of a sudden, you got to do that. And now you're basically just your person mind's going to be behind the scenes justifying. Okay. And then your primate mind's going to take the lead, all while you're saying, I'm not emotional. Like, oh yeah, you are, brother. Yeah, you are. You're just doing it right there. You're acting right there.
That's so funny because my first podcast just kind of not snowballed, but I eventually I made the decision, let's open this up a little bit and have more than one show. And the reason my first absolute show, of course, like the flagship, was Men Talk Women, and it was because I was always hearing men aren't emotional. or men don't talk about their feelings. Men don't talk at all. Why don't men talk? Men should talk more. Men only care about sex and money.
Right.
And then I was evaluating my own mind, and then my friends, and I'm thinking, me and my friends, we talk about a lot of stuff. We talk about everything. Of course, yeah, we talk about sex, and okay, we enjoy, but we also talk about relationships. We talk about the things that we're afraid of. We're talking about, we talk about all these things, and especially as they relate to, women. We do want long-term relationships, and we do want to feel, all those things that they say men y'all don't care about feeling loved. You don't care about being heard. And you don't care about that. Right. We care about all of those things. So I was like, I need to talk to people, to men, so people can see, we do talk.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So when you talk
about, beautiful. Yeah.
We don't have you don't have
right.
Emotions.
So here's the thing I tell everybody when we start getting into gender, okay? Right. And sex, all right? First thing you want to embrace is what I call the gender similarity hypothesis.
Okay.
Gender similarity hypothesis, which is we are a hell of a lot more alike than we are different. That's the first thing you want to realize. As both primates and persons, okay, men and women are a lot more alike than they are different when we reference them against other creatures or entities in the world or humans. Okay. So any idea that men don't feel would be as silly as saying women don't care about sex. It's just, what are you talking about? I mean, that's insane. Both men and women care about sex, and both men and women feel deeply. Okay. There are now, once we have that, once we keep that frame in mind, then we can now foreground the what's called the aggregate differences or dispositional tendencies, okay, that men and women will have, both in terms of, then we can do bottom up, like from the body into the primate nature. Okay, that's one. And it's how we're socialized as persons, coming from the top down from our culture. Okay. And those intersect, and they feed back on each other, and they can bring us somewhat closer together. They can make us better balanced, or we can break and have gender wars, the wars of the sexes, and be, have all sorts of conflict. There inevitably is going to be gendered conflict. Okay, inevitably. And there are fundamental tendency differences. And one of them is going to be the way in which the intersection of relation, of talking about feelings, of that connection, that's going to be played out differently when women are with women and men are with men. Okay. And then the crosstalk between the two. And there is a normative tendency for men to have difficulty with, and I should say, with certain kinds of emotion. Okay. Happiness and pride and anger, we have access to.
Yeah, we got that. We
got that. Vulnerability, dependency, sadness, man, fuck that. I was like, there you go.